Iran is fortifying a critical oil hub, as fears grow of a possible US move to seize it. On Kharg Island, Tehran is laying traps, deploying mines, and positioning missiles, preparing for what it sees as a potential American assault. As US Marines move closer to West Asia, pressure is mounting, with Donald Trump tightening the screws on Iran. But the big question remains, is this the start of a US invasion, or a carefully prepared Iranian trap? With the Strait of Hormuz effectively blocked, could Washington attempt to seize Kharg Island as a strategic bargaining chip? Iran is rapidly building up the defenses of Kharg Island, aiming to shield it from any potential US ground attack. In recent weeks, Tehran has rushed troops, advanced air defense systems, and heavy weaponry to the island. These developments were highlighted in a March 25 report by CNN, citing multiple sources. At the same time, the Trump administration is believed to be weighing the possibility of seizing the small but crucial island in the Persian Gulf. Kharg Island serves as Iran's economic lifeline, handling nearly 90% of the country's crude oil exports. Capturing the island could give the United States leverage to pressure Iran into reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The strait, located off Iran's coast, is one of the world's most critical oil choke points, responsible for roughly 1/5 of global oil shipments. However, commercial shipping through the strait has nearly come to a standstill amid escalating conflict. Iran's foreign minister has announced that only 5 friendly nations would be allowed access through the waterway.
From our perspective, the Strait of Hormuz is not completely closed. It is closed only to our enemies. That is natural. We are in a state of war. The region is a war zone, and there is no reason to allow the ships of our enemies and their allies to pass through. But it remains open to others. Many of the ship owners, or the countries that own these vessels, have contacted us and requested that we ensure their safe passage through the strait. For some of these countries that we consider friendly, or in cases where we have decided to do so for other reasons, our armed forces have provided safe passage. You have seen in the news, China, Russia, Pakistan, Iraq, India. 2 of its ships passed through a few nights ago, and some other countries, and even Bangladesh, I believe. These are countries that spoke with us and coordinated with us, and this will continue in the future as well, even after the war.
Despite the potential strategic gains, US officials and military experts warn that any operation to seize Kharg Island would carry significant risks. The island is now heavily fortified, raising the possibility of substantial US casualties in the event of an assault. Iran has deployed additional manpads, shoulder-fired surface-to-air missile systems, across the island. Reports also suggest that Tehran has laid anti-personnel and anti-armor mines, particularly along key shoreline areas. These defenses are specifically designed to target any US amphibious landing attempt. Kharg Island's proximity to the Iranian mainland further increases the risk, leaving US troops exposed to rapid counterattacks. Even some of Trump's allies have questioned whether capturing the island would actually resolve the Strait of Hormuz crisis. Earlier, Trump had suggested that the US could strike Kharg Island, at one point even saying it could be done just for fun. He also claimed that strikes carried out on March 13 had totally demolished oil infrastructure on the island. Iran's parliament speaker issued a cautionary statement to the United States regarding its planned troop reinforcements in the Middle East, underscoring Tehran's preparedness to counter escalation through resolute defensive measures. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf asserted that additional ground deployments cannot rectify operational shortcomings attributable to US and Israeli command decisions. Ghalibaf indicated continuous Iranian surveillance of US military repositioning as Washington organizes further personnel transfers to the theater. The advisory coincides with Associated Press reports confirming at least 1,000 troops dispatched as part of incremental force augmentation initiatives. Ghalibaf characterized the initiative as fundamentally ineffective, contending that infantry presence fails to compensate for prior strategic miscalculations in the campaign. Ghalibaf further cautioned that American personnel risk entanglement in what he termed Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's unrealistic policy expectations. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said, and I quote, "We are closely monitoring all US movements in the region, especially troop deployments. What the generals have broke, the soldiers can't fix. Instead, they will fall victim to Netanyahu's delusions. Do not test our resolve to defend our land." unquote. Iran has warned that any US attack on Kharg Island would be a catastrophic mistake that could trigger a wider regional conflict. Former IRGC commander Hossein Kanani Morgadam said, and I quote, "If Trump were to deploy air and naval forces along with Delta Force commandos in a ground operation, the battlefield would shift entirely in our favor. By killing or capturing American soldiers, we could raise the level of US losses to a point where they would quickly regret their actions." A former IRGC commander has warned that any heavy US losses would trigger a political backlash in Washington. Weeks into the war against Iran, a growing majority of Americans now believe launching the strikes was a mistake, viewing it as the wrong decision in hindsight. Roughly 6 in 10 Americans say they disapprove of how President Trump has managed the conflict so far, according to new polling by the Pew Research Center. Among Democrats, disapproval is overwhelming, with close to 90% rejecting the president's handling of the war, underscoring a sharp partisan divide. In contrast, nearly 7 in 10 Republicans, or about 6 to 9%, say they support Trump's approach to the Iran conflict and back his leadership during wartime. These findings are based on a Pew survey of 3,524 adults across the United States, conducted between March 16 and March 22, reflecting opinion shifts as the war drags on. Meanwhile, thousands of US Marines are reportedly set to arrive in West Asia on March 27. The amphibious assault ships USS Tripoli and USS New Orleans are expected to enter the region carrying around 2,200 Marines. Their arrival coincides with Trump's deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, further escalating tensions in an already volatile region.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.